We begin in Afghanistan, where the Taliban says US and allied forces must leave the country by the August 31st deadline, as agreed. Thousands of troops are deployed in Kabul, where they're carrying out the biggest humanitarian airlift in history. The evacuations have been chaotic, and there are reports that unidentified gunmen have killed a man at Kabul airport during a firefight involving Western security forces. Well, US President Joe Biden says his forces have expanded the perimeter around the airport to accelerate the evacuation process. And while those evacuations are underway, the Taliban says it has sent fighters to Panjshir to counter anti-Taliban forces. The group says it's looking to negotiate rather than fight. Well, for more on this, let's start at the airport. We can speak now to Al Jazeera's Charlotte Bellis, who joins us on the phone. Charlotte, you're at the airport. Just give us a sense of what the situation is like right now.
Well, we're about 500 metres from the North Gate, which is where everybody is being asked, or has been for the last few days, been asked to go through. Thousands of people cramped, trying to get through, but the gate is fully shut there. We have Western security forces with machine guns overlooking them from the airport fence line. But there's really no movement. It is incredibly hot down here. They are dehydrated. Where we've moved down to, we're essentially in a no man's land that's being controlled by special CIA-funded units that used to come under the Afghan intelligence force. They have been shooting in the air, you can just hear a gunshot there, to disperse crowds, and they are essentially controlling this area between the gate that is shut and the Taliban. And to get to this area, we had to move through Taliban special forces. So to give you a little bit of appreciation of really how hard it is, if you have a US citizenship, passport, any type of Western evacuees, Afghan evacuees to get through, this is the type of gauntlet you have to run.
And Charlotte, we're also hearing reports of a firefight at the airport. I appreciate you're caught in the crush right now, and it sounds like a very challenging situation, to put it mildly. But have you and your team learned anything more about that firefight at the airport? We understand one person has been killed.
Yes. We did ask about that at the North Gate, where it was reported to have happened. People that have been here, like the storekeepers and things that people have set up here, they said there was a big firefight, but it happened late yesterday, and that they know that Western forces were involved in that. We asked some of these NDS units, these Afghan forces, if they were involved in the fight, and they directed us further down to the North Gate. There's still a lot of confusion, but there's also a lot of gunfire happening just as part of crowd dispersal. They're also beating people in front of us. It is anarchy and chaotic, and there are children here, there are women here, and thousands of them.
OK, Charlotte Bellis, we'll let you go and try and get to a place of safety if one exists. But thank you for giving us a sense of the chaos and anarchy happening around Kabul airport. We appreciate it. Speak soon. Well, let's cross over now to Rob McBride. He is live for us in Kabul. Rob, we've been hearing about the ongoing chaos there at the airport, but another interesting development that has happened in the last hour or so is that Taliban announcement that it's not going to extend the deadline for Western forces to withdraw. It's rather interesting, is it not, given a lot of the discussion in the US and the UK is all about trying to stay there as long as necessary to get people out. What more are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting wording about the Taliban giving permission to extend. I mean, is it for them to give permission? I mean, this deadline has been something of a movable feast. Remember that May the 1st was set as the first deadline for US and NATO forces to withdraw from Afghanistan. That was agreed under the peace deal with the Taliban under the Trump administration last year. Now, also as part of that deal, the Taliban agreed to talk to the Ashraf Ghani government at the time, well, they didn't hold those talks. So when Joe Biden announced in April he was extending the deadline to the symbolically important September 11th, they felt justified in doing so. The thinking being, well, if the Taliban can break the deal, we can break it too. So Biden extended the deadline. And then this August the 31st deadline was again put in place by Joe Biden. That was put in place in July. He brought forward effectively his own deadline. And so he set it to August the 31st. If he set it, then presumably he can unset it, which he seems to be doing now because of what's going on at the airport, also at the urging of Boris Johnson of the UK. So what the Taliban will do, it remains unclear. They have said they won't allow an extension. It's a red line. They have in the past warned that when they extended it the last time, they were going to target US forces. They didn't do that. It remains very doubtful that they would do it at this stage because they have an awful lot of other concerns rather than a continuing scrap with the Americans. They've got a country to run. They've got to get a country to get in order. They've got to deal with relations with their neighbors, try to unfreeze assets abroad and everything else that running a country involves. So you do get a sense that although they're going to talk tough, it's in everybody's interest that they do give the US, the UK and its allies the extra days it needs to get the people out and the Taliban can get on with running the country.
Well, they have to get on with running the country, as you say, Rob, but there's also rumblings about a nascent resistance movement. What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, this is in the Panjshir Valley that's north of Kabul. It is the traditional home of resistance to the Taliban. It was the home of the Northern Alliance 20 years ago that was the springboard for the US to intervene after the Twin Towers came down and sweep the Taliban from power. So it was the natural place that a resistance would form again. And it's the son of Ahmad Shah Massoud, the Lion of Panjshir, who is something of a hero, especially among the Tajik community, a resistance fighter. He has been in the Panjshir with around 2,500 troops and also a couple of government ministers from the collapsed regime. But it's difficult to say how serious a resistance this is. There is speculation that Massoud may have been in negotiations to basically put down their arms and to support the government. That seems to have gone away. There might be some resistance, but we do know that the Taliban themselves are taking this seriously and they've pretty much surrounded the valley with superior forces. So it is something of a standoff, but it remains to be seen if the resistance has the force to survive this.
OK, Rob McBride there joining us live from Kabul with the latest developments. Thank you, Rob.